Think we're good. Welcome, guys. Doing a couple more live ones here. Like I said before, I'm trying to get all these out of the way so I can just start blitzing the video editing, get them on a schedule, finally finish off the mids watch. Not saying that I'm sick of it. I'm just saying, I'm looking at the list. What am I at now? So the three I'm doing today. I'm gonna, after those three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 36. What the hell? There's another 60? No, that's not right. You know what it is? Yeah, it's because there's like 10 of them in here that are basically duplicates. So we basically got another 30 of these things. And if I start recording them just once a week, it's going to take a goddamn year until I'm done staring at these fucking field reports. So whatever. Welcome to the channel. It's good to see you. Bank accounts are back. What can I say? I'm just kidding. Wasn't stupid enough to pull a Pat Stedman, but let's get some water in us. It just came from the best coach in the manosphere to the second best coach. Oh, that's good. Is that the dude who gets banned from this channel for running his mouth? Or no, I'm just joking. So the first one's going to be a nice little one on covert contracts. And the second one is going to be a good one on... Actually, what's the wording for this? Let me get this right. Oh, yeah, exposing weaknesses. And the second one is, or the third one's going to be, the winning move on fitness tests is not to play, right? And kind of like the contradiction between overt communication and covert communication. So it should be fun. Yeah. Had to do a little bit of hunting to get these things all together because a couple of the guys deleted their accounts. Luckily, I had some backups and some old archives, so we're good to go. Hey, what's going on? Chase, Thoughtfully, Green Light, John Watch, Paul Murphy. Hey, are you related to this guy, Jack? Interesting. No, I didn't ban Jack. I was just joking around. One of you guys called him the coach, and I'm like, oh, well then, don't outshine the master. Rule 1. Gave him a 30-minute ban. It's just playing around. Yeah, if no one complimented you, your skin is glowing. Well, thank you, sir. It's been a stressful week, and now that we're back to normal. I mean, obviously, if you guys have seen, Canada was borderline about to have an FLQ October Crisis 2.0, but after watching 20 hours of Senate hearings and hearing all the great speeches from our sober second thought, I've managed to calm the fuck down, and everything's kind of going back to normal. Plus the fact that, if you don't know, our dog just had some dental surgery done. Had to remove 11 teeth, 11, and he was hopped up on the drogas last night. So between that and some water and plumbing issues around the place, been a busy week. Still managed to get the 3 videos a week here. Split a blunt, roll it up, and get high. Washington, we will get to you, the sky. What the heck are you talking about? Yeah, getting, and they're running me up the flagpole. And then I guess some of you guys let me know today. Oh, just so you know, Mr. Mega is talking more smack, and I'm like, oh man, would you guys please just give that guy some likes and views so he doesn't have to constantly talk shit? Like, oh, I kind of feel bad for the guy now. Like, not enough to actually sympathize, but enough to be like, yeah, that poor bastard. Oh, Murphy's my real name, not a fake cover-up for Goldman. Yeah, fair enough. I will say, like, in the Comings of the Sphere, the one thing I'm laughing at the most is Goldman Unleashed put his whole, who do you think's the best coach in this area? And I was like, oh man, some of the names that made that list, I'm like, you guys are so done. So done. Yeah, Ryan got Roloed. They're running me up the flagpole. Anywho, if you guys don't know what the deal in these ones is, maybe you're new to the channel, it's pretty straightforward. I have a series here called Midwatch, which is short for when I was working in the Navy back in 1 and 2 watches. There was a watch that went from midnight till 7 in the morning called the Midnight Watch, or the Mids. Graveyard shift, whatever you want to call it. And there was a brief period where I was working at the Naval Operations Center. It's like the intelligence hub. I had those shifts, and they're generally just dead unless there's a ship actively deployed, which there wasn't most of the time. And so I had nothing to do but put on like CBC Radio 3 in French and practice French and listen to guys talking about their new book with that NPR ASMR voice. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's basically like NPR for Canada. Did that, worked on a university degree, and it was like fun times. So I wanted to bring that kind of vibe back to do these things here. So just messing around. Shout out from Seattle, full of feminist armies here. Yeah, well, I mean, I will say this: Canada did show Chaz how to, like, this is how you occupy a city. Stop trying to farm, you idiots. Just set up a wood fire stove. Anyways, enough goofing around. So you know the deal. I'm going to ignore you guys in the chat while I do the recordings. Then once I'm done, we'll do some chit chat and then I'll start on the next one. Something else I'm learning, save me a ton of time, is once I'm done recording, I am going to name the raw files properly, because now I have to hunt through it and listen to it for like 40 minutes to figure out what the heck I was talking about. Yeah. All right, Asadahaji. Dude, I always mispronounce your name, and I feel so bad because every time I see it up, I make the best effort. I'm just going to call you Mo. I think I've said that before. How to move from one night stands to LTR should you in your 20s? Well, I mean, should is a question for you to answer. You can do what you want. It's like, you don't need me to tell you. In fact, if you do need me to tell you, that's a big worry. But you don't move from a one night stand to an LTR. Your goal, I mean, a goal that's good to have, is just get as many women out of your system as possible, because you don't want to be one of those guys that got married at 18 and now you're 35 and you're like, oh man, I missed out on all. Like, you don't want any of that. So just like smash the regret out of your system first off. Most people say, I mean, it's like a rule of thumb is wait till you're at least 30, and there's no scientific backing behind that. It's just a big round number that everybody agrees. Usually by that time, a fair chunk of people have kind of gotten it out of their system and they're ready to switch to a different phase in life, and I'm fine with that. You don't have to. It's not always. It's not everybody. But if it's yours, that's usually when it's good to do it. And on top of that, from the experience of me and just about everybody I know, not a single guy was like looking for a wife. They were looking for a piece of ass. And what happened is, you know, you played a girl, you date a little bit, you have some fun. All of a sudden, she like, oh, she left something at your place, and she kind of slowly tried to like invade into your life. And if they're younger, it's mostly just, you know, you just go along with it because, yeah, why wouldn't I? Everything's great. And then you wake up one day and you realize you're in a relationship and I'm thinking about having her move in. Or if she's a little older, she starts pushing you to like, hey, where's this going? And then you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing this. But generally speaking, the LTR, it's not your decision. It's not your effort to put in. Your job is to make it so that you're the kind of man that a girl would be stupid not to try to lock down. And then you just pick from the girls that are trying to lock you down. That's generally the best way to go about it. The problem is easy to say, hard to do. When I say hard to do, I only mean that because the internet, everybody's complaining that they're 42 and they haven't met anybody yet. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, most of us figure this stuff out pretty early. It sucks how you miss these skills, but hey, I got some YouTube channel stuff to show you to do it. Yeah. All of my friends are getting in one and pressuring me to. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a different question, right? Just tell them to lay off. That's the weirdest thing. Like, your guy friends aren't supposed to be pressuring you into anything. It's like, how about if you really want to ride my dick, you at least pull my hair, you know? But as far as pressures things, it's just like, no. What are they going to do? Are they going to leave you? We're not friends anymore because I can't bring you to board game nights. Like, hey, do what you want. And then, so I'll do one more question here and then we'll take off. So Vaz is like, first date lays, but showing confusing signals, not super genuine desire, but gave it up on the first date. Thoughts? Genuine desire, I think that's the most overused. It's like ADD. You know how they like diagnose it with everybody, but almost nobody actually has it, and we're not even sure if it's like a real thing or just like environmental. Enough goofing around here, but this is what I mean. What the hell is genuine desire? Like, ask yourself that. Like, objectively, what is genuine desire? She wants to go down on you because like she has to. It's like compelled to. She tells you all the greatest things about you ever, and you're the best things in sliced bread. And oh my God, he's like Jesus combined with Thor. It's perfect. And you're like on a first date. Like, how awesome do you think you are by just like showing up, mere presence? Is it like that Simpsons where, hey, Homer, something different about you? He's like, yes, Lenny, I'm 10 feet tall and solid gold. Like that genuine desire at a first date or a first lay. I'll tell you right now, the only way you're going to get that from a first date or a first smash session is if the chick has borderline personality disorder. And even then, it's not genuine desire. It just has all the wrapping paper. It has the same paint job as genuine desire. It just turns out it's a sociological disorder where they have to like imprint themselves on other people. And the thing about that is, the faster they fall into love, the faster they fall out. And I'm not going to tell you the best and greatest lead defensive coordinator. And I'm not going to tell you that that genuine desire is something you have to build and relationship equity. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it'll take a time for somebody to become your ride or die bitch. So this genuine desire is something that comes from them being exposed to you longer. Like, I'll tell you this, if you're using genuine desire and you don't have like a live-in girlfriend, then you're using it wrong. I would argue it's strictly a long-term relationship even concept. Like I'll put it this way. Moved to Montreal. I was living in Victoria, BC, military posting. I was kind of getting bored with my careers. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try the last postings available to me, and if it still bores me, I'll get out of the military. Horrible decision, but I didn't know that at the time. So like, all right, we'll move you to Montreal. I was dating my girl, and I'm like, all right, so here's the deal. I'm moving to Montreal next month. If you want to break up with me, now's the time. If you want to come across the country with me, I guess we'll go get a place. And then she packed up and moved. I would argue genuine desire. Basically gave up. She'd lived on the West Coast her entire life. She'd never seen it. She'd never speak French. She ended up losing her career and all that stuff. That's that whole crawl through broken glass thing. But had I done that on our first date or even our first month dating, it would have been over. So yeah. But back to your question then, when you're asking about you're not seeing those like super invested desires. Well, again, if you really want to know about this, read Cindy Minson and David Buss's Why Women Have Sex. And you're going to find out there's like 800 reasons that women have sex. And being horny is like 752nd. Guys, it's pretty much just like, yeah, we want to be horny and that's when we have sex. And for girls, there's 100 different reasons. Sometimes it's to pacify a man. Sometimes it's to lock onto him, even when she's on, Aunt Flo. Sometimes, like I've heard stories where girls are like, yeah, I don't want to go home. It's too cold and I don't want to catch a cab. And so they just did that. Other girls, like, they just to shut their husband up from nagging. All kinds of reasons. Sex has nothing to do with genuine desire. Sex is sex. And the way things are now, sex isn't even like a criteria for a good relationship. It is the entrance fee. Like if you don't pay that cover charge, there's nothing there, period. But it could be the greatest sex in the world. It's still just an entrance fee with a little tip and a $50 handshake, Yeah, plant-based genuine desire. So I will say this, and I think you really need to get it out of your head. And I get it. I know a lot of, like red pill guys, and even some of the ones that I very, very much respect their opinion, keep talking to you guys about looking for genuine desire. I'm telling you, if you just met a girl, genuine desire should be the furthest thing from your mind. Sexual availability, on the other hand, much better. Genuine desire comes after. I'm just saying, don't rush the process. If you're not having fun with the process, what are you doing? You want to build yourself an Insta family? I've seen sailors that do that, man. They go on a 3-month sail, TJX, do San Diego, come home, take a month break on their vacation. They come back and they got a wife and 2 kids. I'm like, how in the hell did that happen? And they were like, I just wanted somebody to love. And then sure enough, that divorced mom with 2 kids enters their life, cheats on them when they're sailing. One guy got so bad off, he was writing suicide notes on the ship, and the girls on board were just savage towards them. I'm like, you don't want... That's what happens when you go searching for genuine desire. I'll tell you right that. Genuine desire is basically a big billboard you put on your ass saying, hey, which one of you wants to shove the divorce right up here in the cornhole, right? So just relax. Takes like 7 weeks, too much work. But I'd argue, yeah, genuine desire, it's like a main event. If you have to ask, it's not there. It should come to you almost as a surprise. So I'll leave it there. Anyways, I'm going to get started on the recordings. I'll see you guys in just a minute. Oh yeah, one sec. I gotta go back to, gotta shut you guys out, no offense. Another mids watch? Yes, there's actually like another 30 of them, guys. Welcome to the show. Doing the regular thing here, we are going to talk about a great field report that kind of dives into covert contracts. And as much as guys say they know what a covert contract is and that they've handled all their covert contracts, I'm here to tell you you haven't. If you don't know what a covert contract is, that is where you have an expectation that you do X, the woman you're with does Y, and then you don't talk about it. And then when, because you don't talk about it, she has no idea what's going on in your head, so she kind of nukes it. And then you get resentful for it because they didn't know the deal. So this field report, it's one of the guys typical. One field report throws in his question, throws his life at your lap and say, hey, internet strangers, what do I do with this? And then they tell him advice. He argues with them the whole time. You give it about a week, he deletes his account, disappears, goes back to his life of quiet misery. It turns out most guys do not want to be unplugged. They don't want to fix their lives. And at the very least, they just want to be told, hey, tell me everything I'm doing is right and this girl's a bitch. So this guy, she's definitely noticed no change in sex life though. And for the past few weeks, she's been making comments about how I'm acting like an asshole. And tonight, she flipped out. I kissed her and I let her know that sex once a month, we were like 3 weeks in right now, not acceptable. She's like, yeah, you've been acting extra arrogant lately and I don't like it. Then he brought up sex frequency again. It took off in a tangent about how all he thinks about when he gets home while she's busy thinking about the kids. And she also brought up learning to play the guitar again. You know, I bought one recently, been learning to play. I only do it once the kids are in bed. I used to read at that time of night, now I play guitar. I'm not trying to justify myself and my behavior, but I'm still having a hard time with that. Now, agree and amplify comes easiest to me when I ask her what's wrong, having a hobby. She started screaming about how she doesn't have time for one. In my defense, she's always encouraged her to get out and meet some other moms, even without the kids. Anyway, the fight ended. She's crying, claiming that I always say she doesn't have things to do for me, and that she will stop and let the house fall apart. I'm trying to stay centered and be like an oak, but I still struggle. Now, I'm not sure what's going to happen now when we sit down for dinner. So this guy, I want you to, I love this part about field reports. So if you listen to that, you guys know there's a concept called DEAR. Defend, excuse, explain, rationalize. The general red pill strategy is stop doing that. It's one of the easiest things you can do to start improving the lack of attraction in your relationships. Now, he said right there, I'm not trying to justify or whatever, and then he starts defending himself. So he literally says he's not deering, but then as he writes what he's doing, he can't help but expose how he's lying to himself. It's fascinating stuff. When you guys start writing down what you're going through, I think, what did Peterson call it? Like the self-authoring. It's the same concept, right? You write things down because your brain kind of fuzzes over the rough spots, but when you write it down, it makes it crystal clear in front of you. So, typical, one of the good guys in here, Jack 10 of Hearts, makes some notes where the guy's talking about his justification stuff. He's like, I've been considering posting something about two seeming contradictions in the Married Red Pill. We talk a lot about don't just talk, act. But then we also talk about nuking covert contracts, which requires plain and overt language. He gives the example of like a wife's like, why are you acting like a dick? And the guy's like, well, so you consider this being a dick? And the wife's like, you stopped helping me with chores. Then you wonder why I'm not in the mood for sex. And the husband's like, yeah, you're right, but you weren't in the mood when I helped you anyway. And I only did them because I hoped you were having sex afterwards. And then when it disappointed you when it wouldn't. So all these contracts are silly, so I'm just going to stop. And that's his like example here. Basically, laying out in the open the dynamic at play. And I kind of like how he ends it too. He's like, then the husband's like, no, not saying that. I'll do chores when I feel they need to be done, but not right now. Right now I'm playing my guitar. And then the wife is like, yeah, more hamstering, drowned out by the sound of playing like Stairway to Heaven. Which, by the way, a side note on chore play, something to know on chore play is that it doesn't work. Anytime a wife or a girlfriend starts saying, well, maybe if you did X, I would be more comfortable and want to have sex more often. You can guarantee that's not the case. She may think it's the case because they're throwing spaghetti against the wall emotionally, see what sticks. Maybe that is what it is. But then when it turns out it's not it, they make excuses. Never in the history of ever has somebody done a covert contract like chore play and had it work out for them. I'm telling you right now. So generally speaking, what you have to do then, instead of doing the chores on her schedule to her standard, you have to do them on your standard to your schedule. I have a video where I talk about the dynamics of doing it like to her schedule, to your timeline, like a grid matrix. And you'll see, and we walk through why the only thing that works then is you just do it to your standard. And that's it. So Jack points out, like, so what you basically did right there was that. And he's like, justifying your behavior. It's also very directly and concretely nuking a covert contract, which I think is more important in your case. Notice this too. A lot of guys, like I always shit on guys who are like, yeah, what do I do with this? Am I doing this right? Here's the thing. Yes, talking and trying to negotiate this stuff is generally seen as a bad idea. But then so is defending, excusing, explaining, rationalizing. In this case, he has to make a choice because they're directly in contradiction. If he keeps his mouth shut, then he's enforcing the covert, or he's got that covert contract. but he opens his mouth, he's negotiating his ladder. What do? Well, you pick which one do you want to deal with. Sex is basically out of the equation at this point anyway. And he goes, look, this whole thing is common with women and young kids. They've fallen into that martyrdom of motherhood and sacrifice way too much of themselves, physically and emotionally, for the family. So they do this expecting some appreciation, and they get resentful when the appreciation is not given. Pause on this one, because I want you guys to realize this. We talk about guys and their covert contracts. We talk about the need to be more attractive and be less unattractive. And it's not that guys are 100% the problem. There is a lot of examples. And I know I don't harp on them much because, frankly, do we need another women ain't shit video on the internet right now? Because I think it's pretty much a saturated market. But in this case, brand new moms have their own covert contract. I'm a good mother. I am going to do everything and anything and sacrifice for these children. And then my family will love me and worship me, and nobody will bother me, and the husband will do the chores, and the kids will never cry. And that never works out. And then women get resentful, and that's when the nagging starts. And what you've just watched is the birth of Karen. All because, and that's the best part, is that like, hey, why don't you read this book we got from Rollo Tomasi? It might help you out on it. But again, women won't self-improve in the same way. I've seen very few examples of it. Generally speaking, women don't change unless they have to. And because guys are thirsty, they almost never have to. So this is kind of a situation where he has to sort it out and then lead her if he wants to keep the relationship, which, again, it's optional. So even when the kids are in bed, I'm guessing her mind is still racing a mile a minute, thinking about whether juggling whatever household shit that needs to get done. She can't unwind. And then there you are, not just quietly sitting there reading, but flagrantly playing classical gas in the next room. Her hamster starts racing since you're violating the covert contract she's established. AKA, I martyr myself for the kids, and in return for our disproportionate contribution to my household, my husband should throw himself at my feet in appreciation and make no demands of his own, sexual or otherwise. Clearly, poisonous attitude. You don't likely feel your contributions are disproportionate, and even if you did, you've literally told her, well, if you're upset because you feel like you do more than me, then do less. He's like, I've always encouraged her, get out, meet some other moms, even without the kids. I'm trying to stay centered and Oak-like, but I still struggle. And Jack's like, you see? You told her this, and she still insists on holding you to the covert contract. You tore up your side. I supplicate to the martyrdom, and maybe I'll get a few scraps of sex once a month. And now you have to take her covert contract out of her hands and rip it up. If your wife was loving and pleasant women before you guys had kids, and it's probably not going to be difficult then. So figure out the shit that stresses both of you out and fix it. That's how you be an oak. If you have financial means, that's pretty easy. Cleaning and laundry is a drag? Great. Pay somebody else to do the shit. They'll do a better job than your wife can do anyway. She'll probably hamster about some of this, probably because she takes a misguided sense of pride in her martyrdom and it feels like it's cheating to hire a professional to help things, but that's not your problem. I do like this one because we don't get a lot of these anymore. These are field reports of guys who are like 80% of the way there, but have like one glaring flaw. So it's really neat at like focusing in on a specific thing. And in this case, it's like, it's a mixture of a concept called the scoreboard, which I talked before. Like, so when she's doing her covert contract, she's a martyr. She does all the mom stuff. You need to worship her and do everything for her because she's just so great. That's her putting points up on the scoreboard. I know I've talked about it before, so here's a good concrete example for you. She's putting up numbers. Nothing he does any better. I don't get it. I do the dishes, still no sex. I do this, still no sex. I worship her, still no sex. I let her gain weight, and I don't say anything about it, still have sex. I encourage her to go meet friends, so maybe she can stop playing this scoreboard game for a bit, still putting numbers on the scoreboard. How do I beat this? And in this case, he's like, well, what's more important? And in this case, it's like beating the covert contract, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing where it's basically negotiating desire, letting my needs be known. It's not going to get him anywhere. Like, she's not going to, oh, well, why didn't you say so? I didn't know you wanted a blowjob. Let me get to work. Not going to happen. And you kind of know that. But at the same time, when you're honest about breaking apart that covert contract, look, the reason I placated your neurotic bullshit and your martyrdom complex was because I figured if you were comfortable enough, we'd have more sex. Clearly, that's not the case. So instead of enabling this bullshit, I'm going to stop. And you're going to stop before you burn out. And that's that part he missed where he's like literally commanding respect from her, setting her up. She has this idea that she needs to be the perfect mom in her head. That's a feeling you can't get rid of. It's natural. It's like telling a guy who wants to be an alpha male. Of course they do. Who doesn't want to be an alpha male? I'd love a Lamborghini and a pair of aviator shades and a cigar. But yeah, so just you fill that void. You want to be a great mother? Great. Go hang out with the moms. Go bring your moms over there. Show how good behaved your kids are. Maybe you have some money and you're like, yeah, you know what? I'll get a maid to come in once or twice a week, so you don't have to do that. Take some time off. She'll bitch about how that's me I should be a better mother than this. But you're like, and you just sometimes lay it out. It's like, nobody's this good of a mom. I don't care what your fucking Facebook friends say. If you got good examples in the past of like friends that are having bullshit marriages, bring that stuff up. A lot of times I do love it. And this is like an old pickup thing. It's called like Us Versus the World, where you build like a world and you put the girl that you're hitting on in there and you guys do it, like people watching, like, oh, look at that couple. What do you think they're talking about? How long they've been together? And then you guys have your own little like inner language, kind of like the He-Man Woman Haters Club here, how we all talk about hypergamy and shit, right? So it builds that. And then you can do that as a relationship. Dude, I do that myself. I know, like, I love all my friends, but every one of them always, like, we all have our own little dysfunctions that the other relationships probably don't like and don't work for them. Whenever it happens, I just bring it up. Girl gets mad when we're cooking dinner. I bring up the story about, hey, remember when Matt made that spaghetti for his ex-wife and she threw it against the wall? It's like, let's not be that couple. And so you kind of attach to, like, it's almost like a positive form of shaming. But again, the only way to get there is you have to be confident enough about your abilities, confident enough about what you want, confident that you've broken all your covert contracts, and completely outcome independent. Like, yeah, there's a chance your wife could completely fly off the handle, divorce you after all this. I just can't deal with this shit. But at that point, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to be the guy with once a month starfish sex with a wife who nags for the other 29 days every month. So if that happens, so be it. Cards fall where they may. I'm going to live the way I want to live. If she's on board with it, great. If not, no. And it sucks how you have to get there by being so overt and unattractive, but sometimes you got to crawl through muck. Anyways, enjoy this one. Have fun. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Cheers. Okay. So I'm making an effort now to name these ones. Save me some trouble. What do they call it? Oh, right. She has definitely not. What's it called? Oh, she has definitely noticed. I saw some super chats. Let me get to those quickly. Warrior Race, $10 super chat. If she's seeking to lock you down out of necessity because she's older, or trying to lock you down because she has genuine desire, who knows? But I mean, you're not stupid. You can tell. If you got a girl that's 28 with baby rabies and you've been dating for like 3 weeks and she starts trying to lock you down, I mean, you kind of know. It's a lot of times, a lot of guys are like, you got to date younger. And they keep saying it's because younger are hotter, and the genes and the DNA and the evopsych and the glyvin. But I mean, do you really want to know a good reason for it from like a tactical, on the ground, practical man example? It's because girls who aren't desperate to settle down and have a family right away are more pleasant to be around. They're not rushing you through things. They're taking their time. You can sit there and you can enjoy each other's company, and you really do need it. From the red pill, we've kind of come, and we're still kind of arguing about the date right now. Nobody has enough information to say for sure, but anywhere between 6 months and 2 years, because when you first meet somebody, you don't meet them. You meet their best behavior. And it takes time. You have to run through at least a crisis event to see how they're handled at their worst. What happens when you say no and she doesn't get what she wants? What happens when somebody who's richer than you or hotter than you comes around? Does she just blow them off, or is she like thinking about it and hoping that they'll trade you up? There's all these little things, and you can't rush those. They take time. So that's why you have to date younger if you have any chance of like eventually settling down. Now, if you don't care and it's just sex, then do whatever you want. But yeah, the easiest way to say is just, so if the issue is them getting older and being desperate, just stop dating older. Be patient. It's actually called a narcissistic mask. There's a term for this stuff. And it turns out we like our narcissistic masks, but we can't hold them forever. Eventually the real you comes out, and it just takes time. And like I said, I've heard of very few people that have made it further than 12 months without seeing like a glimpse of the real person you're talking to. The problem has never been that, though. The problem's always been guys being ego invested in girls and not looking at the obvious shit. Because, to be fair, a lot of them let it off early. It's the early frame announcement. Talk about it in Practical Female Psychology. When you first start dating a girl, at some point, usually you get drunk, you start talking, she'll let out some very honest, blunt, honest thing. And most of the time, because you're just so goo-goo gaga for the tits and the ass and the hair and the ponytail, that you aren't paying attention. So pay the fuck attention. Dark Knight Dev, $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. Ryan, what are the pros and cons of marriage for men socially when financially there isn't? I keep hearing this where it's some positions they trust you more if you're a married man. In the 50s, that made sense. In this case, I can't think of any examples for that short of a politician, a married politician, being seen as more stable. Now, I don't know how many spinsters and bachelors are in politics right now. I couldn't tell you. But I mean, if you're not running for high office, who gives a shit, right? The only other advantage I've seen socially is if you are expatriated or diplomat, ambassador, someplace where you have to work in another country, especially a lot of like old school countries. Because for them, they don't recognize things unless you are officially married. So I guess those are the only two I would think of right now. If there's other examples, I'd be happy to hear it. Like I said, I think it was Wine More Please put me onto the whole ambassadorship one. Or if you're importing your girl from abroad, a lot of the times, unless you marry them, they're just on, it would hate to get your long-term girlfriend fucking deported. And I don't listen to any of that horse shit that girls say about, what's that FDS thing, the female dating strategy, where they talk about, what the hell is it, girlfriend privilege or some shit? And I'm like, oh, whatever. Really don't care. So hopefully those answer your questions. Vaz Inc., thank you, sir. $1 super chat, the big fancy sticker. Oh. Silly me. I had you guys all in here. Similar to how you can't trust somebody until they have a chance to hurt you and they don't take it. Absolutely. Dude, I've said this flat out for like guys, making guy friends. The best difference you can say between a friend and an acquaintance is your friend is able to screw you over and chooses not to. Then you do the same for them. It's really the only way I've seen friendships work. It takes that, and it's typical. Because you think about like what does Rollo talk about? The beta male shit, right? Where he's like, unattractive blue pill men think love is sacrificial and women think it's opportunistic. Well, yeah. That's because we keep thinking that men and women are equal. So if you realize that all that like beta male stuff that everybody's like, oh, you don't want that for relationships. That's great for friendships. Sacrificial, like, affection? Yeah, that's male friendship. Just don't apply it to your woman. And John, I don't know if that's true, if FDS is a bigger shit show than 21 Studios. Oh, I heard I can do a poll here now. I tell you what, we're going to find out. Is there a poll thing? Or there was a way I used to be able to do it here. There it is. Who is a bigger gong show? So while I'm doing the next recording, you guys can let me know. There we go. All right. Is the poll up? I think you guys can see it any second now. Oh, don't look, Chase. It's a bunch of angry basically, all the shit that everybody, red pill men are just all that crap. The girls are like, hey, there's a tension there. We can do that. And they basically decided to be a caricature of the worst unattractiveness of men. So, yeah. Also, from what I hear, they're like borderline super racist. So, whatever. Anyways, the next one, you guys are going to love this, is... Ooh, about a main event. I don't talk about these nearly enough, but it should be fun. So it's the... Yeah, the easiest way to avoid your wife pouncing on your weaknesses is not to be vigilant against exposing weaknesses, but not having them to expose. So that whole men need to show their feelings, and when they show their feelings, girls find it unattractive. Well, there's a solution to that, turns out. We came up with it like 7 years ago in the Red Pill, and it's to have, like, to sort your shit out so the feelings you do expose aren't so unattractive. And it's kind of almost like a thing. So, anyways, we'll hook you up here. Let me know. I'll close off the chat close off the poll once we're done. I'll talk to you guys in a minute. She wants you to be more vulnerable, and then she dries up when she is. Welcome to the red pill. Another mids watch, guys. You're gonna love this one. This is like a long time coming. Mostly because most guys who watch the red pill content on YouTube, they're here for two reasons. One, I want you to get slutty girls drunk and then kick them off your show. And then two, it's because how can she slap? But this is something a little different. This is for guys who actually deal with like women in real life, not that, surrogate of their bitch ex-wife. And so this guy is having a main event, and I'll go over what that means in a minute. And then talking about fights and feelings, but like the core piece to take away from it is validation. So I know if you've watched my practical female psychology episode, I talk about they call it the betaization process of men. It's essentially the 5 stages that a relationship goes through. A little bit of Evo Psych background. I won't bore you with the details. Just know first stage is called fitness testing. They check to see if it's the kind of man that gives me tingles. Then number 2 is to get him to open up and have his feelings, a way of locking him down. Number 3 is putting him to work. The whole point of having a husband is to get things done around the house, done in life, give you some social status, that stuff. Then number 4 is where nothing he does is ever good enough, and she starts to emotionally distance herself. Step 5 then is, he was always abusive. He never loved me anyway. Please save me from this thing. And she gets some other guy to pick up the thing, and the cycle repeats. As a guy, the takeaway from you from it is to understand the process, to see if you're in a struggling relationship where you're at, and to understand that all relationships are temporary. We're all going to die alone. Learn to act accordingly. The main event, on the other hand, is after the process of dread. Man, there's a lot of jargon in this one, so it's going to be kind of like a dictionary definition start. But dread is, and depending on who you ask, I always talk about it like a branch swing. Branch swing is a turn where somebody leaves a relationship, but they want to lock down somebody else before they do. Same way as like a monkey will swing from one branch to another, but he won't let go of the branch he's on until he has the new branch in hand. So dread is the process of doing that, I argue, but with an olive branch. If the wife gets her act together, you go back and everything's great. Jack Ten of Hearts, another prolific writer, talks about it as the process of learning not to be taken for granted. And I would say either one is valid, and whichever way resonates with you, just go with that. All roads lead to Rome. The main event is after a process of dread where, and this doesn't always happen, but after a long process, making yourself your own mental point of origin, becoming more attractive, becoming less unattractive, the girl's initial impression of you, because she's seen you at your worst, she's seen all your bullshit, she's lost attractiveness for whatever reason, is now coming to terms with the fact that you've passed by her and she's going to lose a really good man. And for a lot of girls, that creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of, dread. And so the main event is their Hail Mary play that they don't understand how to maintain this relationship and what they need to do to make you happy. It's called the mother of all comfort tests. That whole, like, where is this going? It's like that times 100. And a lot of guys think they have it and they don't. Because if you have it, there is snot bubbles, there is tears, there is babbling like a child. Like it's the equivalent of like the biggest deal ever. Like imagine you were going to sleep with the hottest girl ever and then she just disappears. It probably hits you pretty hard. But imagine if you're married to a guy who's top tier, you're hypergamous best option, you have a chance of losing that and you don't know what to do about it. Girls lose their mind. So when I say these, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when guys talk about their main events, because the most often example of what they think a main event is just a girl actively disrespecting them and giving them a bunch of congruence tests to see if all these changes are real or it's just a fake facade and she's reading things wrong. Field reports from a guy called Alpha Beta 49. He's been around for forever. I think he was a paramedic too. He was joined about the same time I did, and this was 7 years ago. So I love seeing these ones. His stuff's still around. It's great. So he's 27, married, 2 kids, under 3. He had an affair about a year and a half ago. He's like, a friend of mine tends bar on Fridays, got around to making plans to visit next Friday. Thursday evening, I'm texting the bros, and the wife starts freaking out that I'm going to a bar to go meet girls. It went from shouting and then all the way to begging not to go. And the more she fought, the colder he became. She just kept stating that she wanted her fears to be acknowledged and heard. The fears about cheating again. But he quickly saw the only way to hear her feelings was to not go to the bar. So he's like, I kept my calm, quite unaffected, and I didn't leave as soon as I could have, though. And I'm not sure why he had it, but just, it's a line bar for country dancing. Like, I'd be around friends the entire time. That's completely ridiculous. So Friday at work, she blows up his phone. Texts, calls the office phone, you name it. And it was mostly begging me to reply and listen to her feelings, which again, not what she wanted. And he's like, I'm ashamed to say I caved. And so he sends a text to her. F it, I'm not gonna go, whatever. It's not worth this misery you're putting me through. You have allowed your fear to rule you and convince you that I'm still cheating on you. You believe that if only I don't go to the bar, I won't cheat on you. Fact is, babe, I could do this whenever the hell I want because that's the choice I can make. I choose not to because I value our marriage and I still think you're worthy of it. Plain and simple. But you getting your way in this situation does not lead to a happier marriage. Doesn't lead to a happier you, maybe, but not a happier marriage. Action always has consequences, and this is not going to resolve peacefully. This is the beginning of a division that will truly be painful. Your fear has caused you to disrespect me, made an issue out of nothing, and create a resentment. This is not building trust, but destroying it on both sides. That's a huge mess. You know what? I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that, yeah, first off, blowing up on text is kind of stupid, but this is not a good play. He added later, he's staying because she was neglecting the kids in her distress. And I know it was a big time fail. Please rip this apart because I know it deserves it. Talked to the bartending friend who's red-pilled already, and he agreed she lost control and I shouldn't shoulder the blame. Great guy, value his support. However, last minute I changed my mind, went anyway. Her parents showed up anyway, so we had childcare in case she needed a moment. I know this wasn't anywhere close to a save. I botched it, but I went to the bar, had a great time. And in the weekend, added some light flirting, which she ignored. Instead, talked about her feelings a couple more times. She knows not to try and talk to me about serious stuff past 11 p.m., yet she does it anyway and gets angry at me when I don't engage. And that's an area I need to work on, drawing a firmer boundary. I like this too. At some points in here, as he's writing it, he kind of figures out the self-awareness of the parts that needs to work on. Anyways, he did some important connections on these conversations. She's not typical Western. She doesn't think the world revolved around her. Her father was abusive, and she resented him for it. He was too much asshole, too much alpha, and so when he drew the boundary, the feminist in her fights to the death. And when the feminist dies, the scared little girl comes out, takes responsibility for the whole thing to earn appeasement, and retreats into broken submission. I don't know how to handle that. Is it good that she submits like that? I'm disinclined to think so. So we had a decent phone conversation. She spewed more feelings. Then she had an epiphany where she wasn't actually afraid I was going to cheat, but she just wanted her feelings that I was to be heard. What the fuck? Listen to her actions, not her words, gentlemen. So in an effort to bring her up to speed, I gave her No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's clinical and therapeutic enough that she won't be alerted to any weird hardcore red pill stuff to freak her out even more, and she'll get a better idea of where my newfound boundaries come from. And I call this our main event because along the way, she threatened that our marriage wasn't going to work, which he said, yeah, you know where the door is. And then she stated that she sees me differently now, and it's by far the biggest throwdown since I've swallowed the pill. First thing here, if it's important, it's face-to-face important. Never have a fight over text. Never have a fight over the phone. Just hang up. Oh, she's going to get pissed if I hang up. Well, she's pissed now. So at least you won't have to listen to it. If it's important, it's face-to-face important. Women gain all kinds of emboldened off of text. And they use all kinds of fancy words from their fucking romance novels. So, secondly, blowing up at that anger there, that's a problem. Weinmore, please, another great guy in this one. He talks about it all the time, where it's like, stop tolerating bullshit, start showing controlled anger. And in this case, for sure, the idea is you're always going to win. Anger, violence, guys can always win. I don't mean legally. Obviously, violence is not the answer, but if somebody's going to escalate, you can always escalate one further. There's no chance you're ever going to lose a fight to your wife. So you don't have to have any fears of that, is what I'm getting at. And so if she brings the anger up to a 1, you bring it to a 2. If she brings it to a 3, you bring it to a 4. Basically showing you're not going to win this battle, so stop doing it. And then, if the wives are somewhat normal and short of some psychological disorders, they realize it's not a winnable fight. They bring it back down, you bring it back down. Remember, reward good behavior, don't reward bad behavior. It kind of plays into that. At the same time, it lets you know if these are kind of a frequent thing, that maybe you need to start picking more fights earlier for something called manufactured outrage. Basically, you're picking these fights just to have a simulated version of it. I'm not an asshole, but I play one on TV. That kind of thing. It tends to work out, gets the feelings out of their system, and it prevents you from having to constantly react to whatever bullshit happens at that time, right? The next part there, don't negotiate. But you know what? Enough of my opining. Let's get back to what we were talking about at the time. This is another one from Jack. He's like, I recommend you read When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, because this situation is exactly where you should deploy fogging. If you guys don't know, we'll walk about it here. The winning move in a shit test is always not to play, right? If you try and win the test, you're already conceding that you're operating within the girl's frame, where she can basically challenge you at will. Agree and amplify is, generally speaking, the best response to make it clear that you're not playing. Comfort tests really aren't any different. You pretty much never want to engage on the terrain that your wife has initiated her test from. You want to find higher ground. Now, agree and amplify is how you do this with a shit test or a fitness test. Fogging is how you do this with a comfort test. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about here, a shit test or a fitness test is, generally speaking, when a girl is attracted to you sexually and they have like an instinctive desire to kind of challenge that, like a sober second thought on their feelings. And the way to pass those is to agree with whatever nonsense whatever bratty behavior the girl's throwing at you, amplify it to show you're not taking it seriously. A comfort test is where a girl already has that desire, but then she's worried about how to keep you loyal, how to keep you around, right? How am I know he's not going to leave in the morning? Again, it's all limbic brain stuff. You can't negotiate this, and it takes a different set of things. And that's where all those unattractive things, you might hear guys on the internet calling it beta male, like that stuff actually has a purpose. It's for this part of it, because you can't have a relationship without some of these beta traits. Granted, a lot of guys have way too many and way too few like alpha or desirable traits to back them up. Think of it more like 80-20, desire to comfort. But in this case, he is one of the few guys that has a problem where he's like too much of the alpha stuff and not enough of the beta stuff. Which, hilarious, because I would argue maybe 1% to 2% of guys that I've spoken to in the red pill actually have this problem. But it is a problem. All roads lead to Rome. Everybody's thinking, just sprinkle alpha on your life, it'll make everything better. It's like, no, it won't. I can show you a dozen guys who show you exactly what the problems are. You have basically a bottle of neuroticism around there. Anyways, as you describe, your wife set up a phase dichotomy. She wanted her feelings heard, or false dichotomy. But you went to the bar. Clearly you weren't listening to her feelings, since how could you listen and still think it was appropriate? The false dichotomy was her terrain, and you stayed engaged with it the whole time. You know, we spend a lot of time in this place analyzing situations as shit test versus comfort test, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. You gloss over this a bit, but it sounds like you initially thought this was a shit test, and so you didn't engage. But this is personally why I always try to use agree and amplify in response, because ignore and don't engage usually requires some persistence. And this persistence will nuke a shit test, but will fail a comfort test. Whereas if you use agree and amplify against a comfort test, your wife will probably accelerate right into spewing whatever her hamster is thinking. And I would predict in your case, as additional agree and amplify's response would have led her to say something like, I can't believe you're joking about this, like you don't even care. I'm just stuck here wondering how many girls you want to fuck. And this is good, because at least you know the terrain, and you can find higher ground. He brings up an example of one of the original moderators too, Strategos Autocrator. Love the guy. Nothing but patience for him. He's a name that's old enough that none of you ever heard of him. Anyways, he's posted repeatedly about this stuff, such as in one of his own main events. And I guess if we got time, I'll see what time we're running on here. I might actually go into that one a little bit. There's not much to it, but it's good to know. So my perspective is, this is how everything went south for you. You failed to recognize the terrain, shit versus comfort. Your reaction was a tactical error that prevented you from finding the proper higher ground, and so you were stuck on her terrain, trying to fend off her torrent of "you're not listening to me." And Jack's like, you know what, this is my armchair psychologist opinion. She probably holds onto a lot of memories when her dad did some shitty abusive shit to her, and she just suffered in silence. She wonders if she bears some responsibility for the behavior, not just by being outspoken by how much harm the abuse was doing, but did he do these things because he didn't realize, or because he did? If I had really shown him how much he hurt me, would it have stopped? Hence the behavior towards you. If I don't tell loved ones their actions are hurtful, then it's my fault they hurt me. But if I tell them those actions are hurtful, then it's their fault they hurt me. Now, this could be way off base. I'm not a trained professional. I'm just some dude on the internet who read 70 words that you wrote about your wife's background and proposed a theory. But if I'm in the ballpark, clearly it makes sense why establishing boundaries make you feel like she's drawing an association with her abusively asshole father, and why you wouldn't like that. But unfortunately, that's her mental hookup, not yours. So in a way, it's not much different than my wife shit tests me constantly because she grew up seeing her mom constantly shit on her bitch ass dad, Or my wife shit tests me constantly because her dad openly cheated on my mom, and my mom always acted oblivious with the wife hatred or some other crap like that. So your question is it good that she submits like that? Well, no, it's not good. What would be good is if she had enough self-awareness to realize that she has some trauma and an unhealthy influence on her adult relationships and do what she needs to do to get a more healthy attitude, change her mental models. But can you do anything about it if she doesn't even realize it? Not really. So he's pointing out the part where Alpha Beta was talking about focusing on his self-improvement more than her shit test, out of balance. He's like, oh, yes, I'm glad you recognize this. Your affair has dug you in quite the hole because an affair imposes dread in a way that doesn't increase your value. I'm going to pause here because that's important. When guys talk about dread, having sexual abundance, yes. But the thing is, if you just go out and cheat right away, and your plan is to like see if the marriage is good or not, cheating increases dread, or like the apprehension of losing a man in a relationship, without the corresponding increase in sexual market value. So I'm not saying it's not a tool, but just be aware, a lot of guys who early on just start blowing things up and sleep with the maid, you're actually making things worse. I'll smoke, no fire. So yeah, it imposes dread in a way that doesn't increase your value. So say you hit the gym, got ripped, got a promotion, upgraded your wardrobe, that acts as dread too, but you've also increased your value. So it's going to be really easy to pass the eventual comfort tests. A wife is scared her now hunky and rich husband's going to cheat on her, but the hunky and rich husband can tell her she's being ridiculous. No one turns him on like her, and in fact, she's turned on right this second that he has to rip off her clothes and bend her over the kitchen table. And then tells her in the afterglow that he appreciates her. You know, that's easy stuff. But an affair? Yeah, you're going to have to go a longer road than some guys because you're going to get a steady diet of shit tests and comfort tests, as you probably would expect. I mean, it's reasonable. And having the value that would help you mitigate these tests, you won't know when a slight uptick in self-improvement may inspire radioactive dread, which is why you'll be unable to mitigate it easily since, like I said, your self-improvement was only a slight uptick. All the more reason for you to get really good at fogging, because I get the sense that you're going to have to be using this quite a bit. So it's kind of neat to look back through all this stuff. Strategos, by the way, chimed in because he was in a similar situation too, and he's like, yeah, I've come to rely on agree and amplify very well. It comes naturally, especially from the frame of I love life, I'm having fun, I welcome everybody that wants to have fun to do it too. So as you say, if it's a comfort test, it helps draw it out quicker. And he's like, I want to add too, on hindsight, that on the experience you cite of mine as our main event, that things did turn around after, that we are much happier. The main thing that changed after the main event was really me. I internalized that she couldn't get to me. I was strong, I had frame. If I was strong enough through that hell, there's nothing else that you can do. And he's like, I really internalized this. I believed it. And now she believes it too. And that in turn calmed her down a lot. So I feel like a different man. She treats me a different man. I'm just a different man. She's still a bitch from time to time, but I'm so comfortable in my frame, I can handle it much easier. And I'm vouching for this too. So like, to sum all this stuff up, actually, you know what? Before I go to that part, the one thing is interesting. You know that whole girls would rather share a top tier man than be saddled with a loyal, like a beta, I think Rolo calls it. He cheated. She took him back. So there's value there. There's value. There's dread. Again, girls can move past this much easier than guys do because they don't treat jealousy the same way. But if you're that guy and you build up your dread from cheating, then you have a much different road than a guy who builds it up because he got a harpy wife that won't touch you. You basically created the dread without the corresponding uptick in value on your part, which allows you to handle this stuff much easier. So you actually have a harder road ahead of you. If you want it. You don't have to. In this case, yeah, the tools like agree and amplify and fogging become super important. Super important. It's like they were saying here, you can never tell sometimes if a girl is shit testing you because she's attracted and wants to make sure it's real, or if she's worried about losing you because you've already cheated on her before and it's a comfort test. And they look very similar, especially if you're in the game. So yeah, at this point, agree and amplify with what she's saying. You're either going to get, it's a fitness test, and she giggles and you guys smash afterwards and it's fun, or it's a comfort test, and then she thinks you're making fun of her for having these like emotional tirades, and then you end up drawing out her honest opinion and answer. And yeah, if you get to this point where it's like a big snot bubbly mess, then yeah, it might be a main event, which is the mother of all comfort tests. But again, if you've been practicing it well enough, if you have your agree and amplify and fogging on track, then when it comes, you're able to handle it. And like Strategos was saying here, it's not that she changes, It's that you finally internalized. You have frame. You fucking got this. So take this for what you want. Hope you enjoy it. Catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. One second, guys. I'll be right there. And this is your main event, wife. I saw some super chats. All right, let's see how the poll did. End the poll. All right, you guys are a bunch of dicks. Where'd it go? Where's the damn poll? How do I find the poll? All right, we'll do the super chats and then we'll go to the teeth or the poll. Ian Bonsiu for the Romanian $10. Thank you, sir. I think it's Romanian. 10 Rons anyway. Thanks for the Rons. Nice teeth. Greetings from Romania. Thank you very much, sir. Had to wear a lot of braces in my teenage years. Turned down a lot of women who aren't into that kind of thing. I'm just glad I can smile now. Oh, dude. That the comment stalker's back. Good for him. Vaz Incorporated, $5 super chat. What's your thoughts on the AMS advice? Oh no, kiss on the first date unless it's back to your place to escalate. Do you think going down on a chick makes you beta? What the hell are these guys filling you with? Who's Alpha Male Strategies? Oh yeah, that guy. I don't know him, so take this as like a critique on this fucking horrible advice, not on him as a person. Last thing I need is more beef right now. We just got our banking back. Give me like a week to relax, and I promise I'll talk shit after about people. But what the hell? Don't kiss on a first date unless it's back at your place to escalate? Like, what kind of arbitrary fucking rule is that? I don't know what it is. It's like, I picture guys are just running their mouth because they have to fill up content, to be honest. I don't think he's tried this. I don't think he believes it. I don't think he's done it either. I think he'll kiss a girl first chance he gets. Like, here's the thing. My old pickup days, back when I was like in my early 20s, I remember this, and it was always like, you don't want to kiss a girl and start dancing or grinding too much, because if you just start making out with them at the bar, she basically gets all the validation she needs from you, and then she doesn't take you home. That makes sense. So don't kiss a girl that you just met at the bar. At least not right away, not till you're out of there. That makes sense. There's a reason for it. Again, it's a hypothetical imperative. Do this if you want this. If that's not a concern for you, go ahead and make out with the chick at the bar. But then he's saying here, don't kiss on the first date unless you're back at your place to escalate. Like, why? What happens? Did he say? Does he know? I've kissed tons of girls before I brought them back to my place. We still smashed. In fact, the kiss didn't have a factor one way or the other. The one thing I will say the kiss mattered for is there was a lot of girls that just wanted a free dinner, a couple drinks. They just wanted to feel good, and then they go back and they weren't actually interested in sleeping with me to begin with. When I do those kisses early, I sort those ones out really quick, and it took me, I'm not too proud to say I had to learn this the hard way a lot longer than it should have taken a normal person. But yeah, those escalations, absolutely. Get that out of the way as early as humanly possible. Because if a girl starts backing off, she's talking all that swag and, oh yeah, you're great, and oh, I twerk like a mother and I'm good and I could start a leaf blower, but then you go in for a kiss and she backs off, she's wasting your time. She's what they call a time hoe. So that's the purpose of kissing. It's not this crap. I don't know what the hell he's going. And then do you think going down on a chick makes you beta? First off, there's no such thing as a beta male. I know I occasionally use the term, but from a red pill perspective, the term it's nonsensical. The best way to encapsulate it is alpha is desirable behaviors, hormones, and properties. Tall, aloof, dark triad, testosterone, dopamine, feel good stuff. Stuff that makes a girl wet. Beta is comfort. Oxytocin, serotonin, good father, nice job, kisses on the forehead, big hugs, I'll never cheat on you, baby, that stuff. So going down on a chick makes you beta. You know what that is? Like, first off, if you want to sleep with a girl more than once, you better be good in bed. And there's a bunch of tools to use, and going down on a girl is one of those tools. And if you don't have that tool, well, then there's going to be a lot of girls that's like, yeah, I'm not calling them back. That was not nearly as fun as it needed to be. You know, Chad down here is way more fun. So yeah, do what you got to do. That's my opinion on it. Having said that, I've never heard anybody talk about oral in this way who wasn't like a teenager who just thought it was disgusting. And to which I would say on that one, like, yeah, nobody liked eating, eating their broccoli either until they started eating it a bunch. Then all of a sudden broccoli is great. When you're on a cut, if you're not eating a ton of broccoli, what are you doing with your life, you know? Oh, and then the second one, yeah, it's the same advice. So yeah, just again, when gurus tell you online like what you should do, they're giving you what's called a categorical comparative, and you can safely ignore it. They're saying this stuff makes you alpha, this stuff makes you beta, this is godly, this is devil, sin, this is good, this is bad, this is a good man, this is a bad man. Everybody's trying to like tell you what to think, what to feel, what your values are, and my personal opinion is, hey, fuck you, buddy. Like, you didn't help me pay rent last month. Why are you telling me what makes me a good person? If you're red-pilled in any sense of the word, and you can't tell yourself what works for you, what makes you good, what makes you enjoy looking at yourself in the mirror every day, then what the fuck is this guy doing? Get out of my face. That's some bullshit right there. Mustang, could you give an example of fogging and manufactured outrage? I'm guessing it can't be something you won't compromise on. Okay, thank you, by the way, 449 super chat. Did I miss anybody else? No, that's it. Okay. Oh, there's the... Okay, one sec. I'll do your question. I finally see the poll now. Where's the thing here? In chat. There it is. Who's a bigger gong show? Couch Ryan at 38%, 21 Studios at 33%, female dating strategy at 28%. Fuck 38% of you guys. Oh, at this point, I'm going to release my Chatterbait library, teach you guys a lesson. Okay, so back to fogging and manufacturing. So fogging is from No More Mr. Nice Guy. And the deal with fogging is it understands a lot about how women react to things. So remember, women start with emotion, and then they process the emotion through language, and then that's how it works, right? So she tells you some feelings. She doesn't know if they're right or not, but like girls, they just run their mouth. You're just doing this because you want this. You're just doing this because you want to sleep with me. You're just doing this because you're going to cheat on me. That's an emotion thing. How you react to it, generally speaking, is if guys treat it as a surface level conversation, they just deal with the information level and not the emotions or the subtext. They'll start addressing it as it. You're just trying to cheat on me. No, babe, of course I would never cheat on you. Now, from an emotional standpoint, she's feeling anxious. She doesn't know why. And so she brought up the word cheating to see how you'd react. By the fact that you're denying it, what you've done now is you've made that mental model that you were cheating on her. It's now real. And you can deny it, but now the more you deny it, the more it looks like you're actually doing it. And when we talk about being in somebody else's frame, that's what we mean. So fogging is a technique that was developed by, psychologists in a way of diffusing that situation. So in this case, she threw cheating out at you. It's an emotion, and in her head it's real, but she's trying to find out, like, is this real or am I being crazy? Fogging acknowledges that that's a valid, like, I can see how you'd feel that, but it doesn't make it real. That makes sense? You're just cheating on me, honey. If I was cheating on you, you'd be the first one I tell. That's like an example of fogging right there. Dude, I get it. I would think I was cheating on me too if I went to the bowling alley at Friday night. But you know what's there? That's as far as you take it. So you acknowledge, yeah, I get it. In your position, you should totally think I'm cheating on you. I'm hot and I'm available and there's girls out there. I get it. But you're not acknowledging it. You're not saying, no, that's not true. I would never do that. Or you're not thinking, yeah, I'm gonna. So she's like, oh, thank God. So I'm not crazy here. Like, I'm wrong, but I'm not crazy. Thank God. And that's how fogging works, right? Same thing. And a green amplify is slightly different. A green amplify is, take that same scenario. Oh, you're going to go cheat on me, aren't you? It's like, oh, not only am I going to cheat on you, there is a foursome there waiting for me right now. In fact, if I don't finish this argument and get down there, I'm basically missing out on like being able to sniff coke off of one of their asses. But you know what I mean? You take that emotional state and you amplify it to such a ridiculous extent, saying you're being crazy. And that one tends to work better when it's a shit test, because a girl is just flirty, being bratty, and she wants to see that you're like not going to be fazed by her shit, and it just keeps the attraction going. But on a comfort test, it's basically saying you've completely invalidated my emotions and you think this is fucking funny. And that's the way you draw it out, those things. So that's how those two things work. And again, if you've been following my sidebar series, No More Mr. Nice Guy and When I Say No I Feel Guilty, does both. Talks about both of them in greater detail than I could here. So I'm going to get to the I probably won't have time for Strategos. I was looking at his right now, and it's fucking huge, so I probably won't. But yeah, nuclear shit test, owning my shit out of panic attacks. It's a good one. I'll probably make a separate Red Pill Coffee episode because it's really that good. And then... yeah, minimize weakness by holding frame. I like that one. So this is the last one. It's, what was the title of this one? Oh, it's about weakness and validating and showing your feelings and shit like that. A bumbling fool from... dude, I'm not from Winnipeg. Do you want to... you know what? Fuck that. Call me from Winnipeg. Jiggy, you're gone, man. Don't ever say I'm from Winnipeg. From Alberta. Let that be a lesson. Even Marty's gone if he brings up Winnipeg. I hate that shithole. I've been there once. I'm like, never again. Okay, last episode. Gonna get started. I'll see you guys in a bit. Because I got Patreon at 3 anyway. So if you guys haven't joined the Patreon, go give it a check out. I'll see you guys there 3 till 5. His wife and him were carpooling, and you won't believe what happened next. Clickbait. Welcome, Midswatch. We're going to do one about exposing weaknesses. You guys have heard this before. I wish a man would expose his feelings more. I wish a guy would feel vulnerable around me. And then the guy does it, and the girl's like, maybe we should just be friends. So here's going to be kind of an example of this in a marriage, little ways how to deal with it, and we'll get to it. So the Red Pill Disciple, back at 7 years ago. It's like my wife and I, we carpool. We had an incident this morning where she thought I was showing weakness. Admittedly, I kind of was. He's like, this tiny bit, barely a sentence was enough for her to pounce on. She went on and on about it and what I should do. He's like, my initial response was to hold frame, say okay, and leave it at that. And the entire trip, she just kept going on and on and on. And by then, I said something back that triggered an emotional response. Oh, am I not allowed to say anything? Why are you being so defensive? Clearly, shit tests. And he's like, I did okay. I could have been better for what it was. I redirected it and said she can say whatever she wants to, but I'm going to be allowed to say something back. So I flipped it and asked her why she's being defensive about it. And at that point, she hit her emotional limit and blew it. I can't talk to you about anything, blah, blah, blah. We're fucking done with this conversation. Don't pick me up. I'm like, I kept calm the whole time. He's like, in the past, I'd have blown the fuck up, but, not after a red pill, thank God. I dropped her off. 10 minutes later, I get a deluge of long texts. My singular response was, I thought you said we were done. That's actually, I don't agree with it answering these texts, but that was pretty good. I thought you said this was it. Later on, I text her, I'll be picking her up, same place, usual time. Now this is key. I didn't ask her, I told her. And in a reply a few hours later was, okay. The fact I made it a statement, not a question, was the key to holding frame. Absolutely key. I would say with the statement, she didn't have a whole lot of options. Asking a question would have let her decide, not me. It's like I started this back in January and it's been very helpful, so I wanted everybody to know it's helped me out. Old me would have just taken it and apologized, and for even speaking back, so thank you. So that's kind of a fun little field report. It's something fairly simple there. Girl has emotions, girl feels things, guy just does logistics. Texting's for logistics only. It was actually a pretty good example of that. Generally speaking, if your girl sends you a text that's more than like 3 sentences long, she's emoting, and just don't respond. Don't ever respond. Don't even read it. Because if you read it, your stupid man brain is going to be like, I'm going to say something. Don't say anything. If it's important, it's face-to-face important. And when you get face-to-face, she's like, should you read my text? It's like, no, what did you say? And then she'll just talk anyway. So like, there you go. That's how adults do things. We don't send Reddit messages back and forth at each other, So Jack's like, I've observed that women pounce on weakness when they fear the direction of the captain. Like, are you giving your wife reasons to respect your command? In my first marriage, my ex-wife did it constantly. And all I had to say was something like, fuck it. I'm dreading this meeting tomorrow with my boss. And then she was off. So he gives an example here. He's like, I don't know why you just don't tell him you want a raise. You do twice as much work as everybody else there anyway. If he starts to criticize you tomorrow, don't take that shit. Tell him what you're worth and what to look for another job and how does he expect it and blah, 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 blah. He's like, and I'd start by politely listening, and then I'd verbally acknowledge her advice and say thanks. And then I'd say, yeah, good points when I think about it. And then I'd just kind of stare at her and figured she'd wrap it up soon, and then I'd sigh and roll my eyes. Then I'd eventually snap and say, okay, woman, that's enough. I don't need this shit right now, which would naturally lead to a huge fight, and she'd say, I'm just trying to help. And every time I do, you act like a huge asshole. And then he'd say, not every comment I make is a request for your advice. Sometimes I just want you to listen and support me. And then I place my balls in a jar and handed them to her, because after that gross display of unattractiveness, it was clear to my wife that I did not need them anymore. Keep that in mind, by the way, in your own relationships. So it's always good to maintain frame, but I suppose I'm just raising the point that her giving you advice is her signal saying that she wants you to alpha the fuck up, not by following her advice, which is probably worthless. But if you think you're on the right course and you've developed enough and you're achieving your action plan, then she'll realize this soon enough and the shit tests like this will end. And I think that's generally how you get to a happily marriage. Not just endless, constant vigilance against moments of weakness. You don't need to worry about that when she trusts your leadership, feels good about her captain. So make it happen. Now, I say all this because eventually I did become vigilant against showing weakness to my ex-wife, but at that point it didn't matter. My career had stalled, very stressful dead-end job, I'd become physically and mentally flabby, I didn't want to show weakness, but I was so full of weakness, which meant I didn't show her anything, and we pretty much stopped talking. She'd still try to pounce on things I was fucking up. I overheard Dean suggest you guys go for a hike this weekend. Are you going to go? And then I'd just stare at her and turn up the volume on the TV. So I did maintain frame, and the shit tests did end, but not in the way I wanted. But that's another story, though. And so he sums it up with, the easiest way to avoid your wife pouncing on your weakness is not to be vigilant against exposing weakness, but to not have any weaknesses to expose. I think I talked about this in an older video where it was like, the two sexiest words in the English language are, shut the fuck up, I got this. I think a big part of it, though, is understand deliberate action. A lot of guys, they just talk. They don't think. They just run their mouths. And in that way, they're kind of men being raised to act like defective women. Women obviously think things. Their emotions run wild. They run their mouth. And then as the conversation happens, they process their emotions from it. Guys don't do that. Guys sit here and we dwell on things. And then we kind of figure it out. And then we talk afterwards. So by the time we're talking to a girl, we assume she's already processed this and she wants to chime in. And you treat her like a man in that conversation. And then she's like, I don't get it. Everything I try to process here, he just agrees with it. Says, yeah, that's a good point. So clearly my rambling insanities are so perfectly on point. You ever want to notice why women talk about they have this great woman's intuition? It's like, I'm psionic. I know. I'm an Aries. I know exactly. And this is how they get that dumb shit idea in their head. It's because they're rambling their nonsense to the guy they're dating, the man they're married to, their dad. And the dad's just like, yep. Oh, yep. Good point. All right, shut up, woman. And then she gets off of that. She talks to her friends. She's like, my husband did these things. And I guessed it all right. It's like giving her the lottery numbers. Lottery numbers to your heart. Except for the prize is shit. So ask yourself, if your girl's asking you what's going wrong and you start telling her what's wrong, what's the purpose? Like, what are you trying to do? Well, she asked. Yeah, well, I can ask for anything. I can ask you for $100 in the chat. Are you guys going to give me $100? So far, no. So far, no. So just because somebody asks does not mean you're obliged to. There's a great, I don't know if I have it up yet on the channel, but it's called Verbal Intercourse is Optional. It's probably one of the best married, red-pilled mental models out there. And just realize, in the same way that your girl demands that you engage with a certain type of conversation that you don't want to, it's the equivalent of a guy running around with a giant erection saying, hey, come on, it's not going to suck itself. That's how silly it sounds. That's how ridiculous it sounds. And you kind of have to equate those two to kind of understand this. But, so why are you sharing this stuff? I'll give a great example. My girl's psionic, ESP. My resting face looks like I'm mulling something over and I'm pissed. So I'm just sitting here, minding my own business. She looks over. What's wrong? I'm like, nothing. What? What's wrong? Nothing. What are you doing? So after the 15th time of asking, I'm like, you keep asking me what's wrong. Now I'm pissed off. And now it's a fight because she knew it. She's like, I knew something was wrong. Why did I say that? Because I want her to shut up. Is that the best way to do it? No, it's not a good way to do it, because all I did was escalate the situation by constantly invalidating her emotions because, frankly, they're stupid. Better thing to do What's wrong? Ah, my girl's on my ass right now. She just shuts up. Oh, yeah. Agree and amplify means nothing. So when they're asking about these weakness questions here, hey, what's the matter? What's going on with your job? Are you okay with this? If something's really bothering you, a lot of the times they don't really care. Not really. They just, like, emotionally, they feel some discomfort and they talk. So let them talk. And then when you're done with them talking, I got this. What's bothering you? Some shit at work. It's not really important. It can be handled, but, And then you can go nuclear on the other end, where it's like, there's times where I'm pissed. I don't know what it is. I don't know, maybe somebody ran Rolo up the flagpole and I'm just fucking, ugh, or I lost a game of Tekken or something like that. My girl's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, look, it's got nothing to do with you. I'm pissed off at something right now. Let me be pissed off. I'm gonna get over it, and we can get back to normal. It's just 5 minutes. We'll be good. But that's the thing. And I've got, like, some more personal examples that I'm not going to go into in here, so I picked this nice goofy one. It's a way of, like, girls like, I just want you to express your feelings more. So you can actually do that, but it's always from your own frame. Yeah, shit's bothering me right now. It's supposed to bother me, and I will get over it. Give me a minute. And that's it. That's your boundary established. Like, yes, your intuition is right. It's like fogging. Something is bothering him. I can see why you'd think something's bothering me. It is bothering me. But that's it. You're not ceding any ground. You're not saying, now I want to hear your advice. I want you to tell me about it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm insecure about it. Nobody wants to hear that shit. You shouldn't be saying that shit because, like I said, it's not about hiding your weaknesses. It's about not having any weaknesses to expose. Shit happens all the time. Canada just had a thing. We almost did emergency measures. I donated some money to a truck convoy, and the girl's like, oh my God, are they going to take your banking? I'm like, no, they're not taking my banking. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Even if they do, I got this crypto here, and I got this here, and could sell this, and I got this here. And you're like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah, I'm a little pissed right now. Like, Canada's trying to undermine our banking system. But you see what I mean? It's like a very reasonable example. It's like, yeah, I'm pissed. You caught up on that. Totally makes sense. But I'm going to get over it, and I planned around it. Shut the fuck up. I got this. So the way... And she doesn't pounce on these things as weaknesses. Anytime something goes wrong, I don't get pounced on anymore. I used to. But thank God for Red Pill. Now I don't, and you guys can be there too. So now you're at the point where when something happens, and it's a weakness, you don't have to pull... And you watch my Red Pill video on George Bruno where he's like, your girl's earning more money than you, so you got to start hiding money under the mattress or she's going to leave you. That's that hiding your weaknesses. It's hiding the badness, as Robert Clever calls it. You're not doing that anymore. Because then it just becomes a battle of attrition. And I'll tell you right now, the girls' limbic system and their larynx will always beat your stoic alpha male reservedness. Always in a battle of attrition. But it's that not having any weaknesses to expose. Bad shit happening to you is not a weakness. Reacting out to it like a bitch is a weakness. Letting your girl throw spaghetti at the wall and see what it sticks and using that to guide your actions, yeah, that's being a bitch. Don't do that. Hey, you can keep talking as much if it makes you feel any better. I've already got a plan to get out of this. Don't worry about it. You just be honest about it. So, take that for what it's worth, and I will catch you guys on another episode. So, take care. Cheers. I know, I almost did talk about like a personal one in there. I don't know. It was actually just like my initial Red Pill event, Batman origin story stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy who talks about fucking Batman origin stories on goddamn YouTube. Nope. But you see, so one thing I would want to add to this, and it's just afterthoughts, but like, all these guys that are talking about sprinkle a little alpha on your life, just be more alpha, just be more bitch boss. It's not helpful. Like, yeah, there's even, who's the biggest alpha male playboy on right now that you guys know? I don't know. Name some names in here. I'm very curious to hear you guys' opinion. I know who people are going to say if they want me to start rambling, but like, you think their life is perfect and nothing ever goes wrong? I'm begging you to differ. Jack Murphy was alpha male on top of the world like 3 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden there's people posting his dicks on the internet. This guy. Shrike, shut up. I guarantee some shit fucking pops off, and I bet you anything if they start thinking like throw alpha on it as the answer to their problems. What happens when you end up in these situations where a girl starts pouncing on a weakness, and that's just what they do. Girls love pouncing on weakness. It's like watching a serial killer documentary on fucking Netflix. But the only reaction that you have on that then is anger, because you have this narcissistic fantasy. I am an alpha male, and I am the fucking top tier, and my Lamborghini is better than the one in fucking Magnum PI, and Miami Vice and fuck those guys. And those like jumping on your vulnerabilities or the weaknesses or situations attack that narcissistic fantasy. The problem is a narcissistic fantasy is kind of like an element of a disorder. So when it gets attacked, your body goes into ego defensive mode and you get what's called narcissistic rage. Not anger. Anger is a social emotion. It's rage. It's the difference between, you know, your teenage son getting pissed off you told him to clean his room and a 2-year-old pissed off that he couldn't eat ice cream. It's limbic brain. It's just angry. And the worst part about this is it turns what is otherwise a dealable situation, a personal hardship that you can handle, into a full-blown fucking abuse type scenario. And I've watched it. My stepdad was like this. He had that narcissistic fantasy that he was the big burly fucking bushman and you can't tell him shit. He runs his house, and then I think my mom laughed at him once. He just fucking lost it on that one there. It was a long story, but the point is then, yeah, but then the only tools he had were ones that were ultimately unattractive. He ended up losing a bunch of money, got divorced, you know, kids don't talk to him, all that kind of shit, right? He bounced back, which is fine, but that could have been handled so much better as long as you stop thinking about sprinkling alpha on your whole fucking life. And instead, you think about not letting your weaknesses define you and not letting them be a threat point. So take it for what it's worth. Let me check out the last bit of chats here. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I suppose I could do, actually, you know what? It's noon. I should probably have some lunch. So we're probably going to stick with that. I think that's like, what, an hour and a bit? That should be good enough, right? What the fuck did I even walk into? Are you guys even listening? Yeah, P-Ashes, a lot of them are listening. All right, so what are we talking about now? Oh, you guys are bringing up the porn stuff? Dude, did you know there's like a second porn star in the sphere now? Like, how many porn stars are there giving you guys life coaching advice? That's crazy. Having said that, unvaxxed, MGTOW, anti-jab... Oh, I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'll tell you right now, I guarantee you do. There's way too many guys here that talk about being, you know, this, that, and the other thing, but then they got collections of gay Jack Murphy porn in their computers and looked up everything from Sterling. I know. Way too many people have seen Jack Murphy's dick. One of you assholes even posted it on my Twitter thread once. I was just making some goofy joke on Twitter. And then one of you puts a gift of that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to remove that reply. Like, I don't need to see that. You sons of bitches. There's a gay British Emirate. Oh, Troy. You can make all the lives you want. It won't change the fact that you're in Winnipeg. Oh, is that you again? I don't know what it is. I just have such like I just don't like Winnipeg at all. I went down there. Winnipeg has hit, you know what it is? Winnipeg has all the shitty qualities of like Edmonton, but none of the good qualities. Like, it's flat. It's cold. It's like rednecky. The downtown core is dead and the suburbs are all alive with like riggers and their families with all this get off my lawn, king of my castle stuff. But the thing is, Edmonton is like an hour and a half away from Calgary and skiing, and it's got a hub, and you can drive to like Red Deer, or you can drive to all these places and have a great time. Winnipeg is like 12 hours away from civilization. The only place more isolated than Winnipeg is fucking none of it. And so I've already had to ban like 2 or 3 guys from this chat for bringing that up. So I don't know. I guess go to Winnipeg. Talk to me from Winnipeg. We'll see what happens. I don't really care. As far as to point out what isn't ideal, male behaviors or whatever it is. Yeah, well, McPherson, that's the thing. It's when you see all these guys talking about pointing out the ideal male behaviors, they don't fucking know. They don't even live up to them. Like, how much... And I hate dunking on Jack here because he's kind of had a rough month, but... do you ever see that where he's like talking about real men this and good men this and blah 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 men this, and was he living up to any of it? He was jerking off on camera. No, I don't care. You do your morality thing if you want to. It's not my thing, but you know, go live your life. But I'm not gonna sit here with any of my moral failings telling you guys a real man does all this bullshit that I don't do unless I'm on camera. Like, yeah, fuck whatever. Yeah, the gym is full of buff guys with great jobs, got their shit together, who are once losers in many ways. The women just show up in the skimpiest workout gear allowed. Again, I don't really feel too strong, and that's the thing. I don't know how to articulate this, but like, I always have fun. Like, whatever, I do chick talks. I'm not one to judge about the wham and ain't shit stuff, but I am just surprised how much guys love to point out the inequities between men and women. You know, oh, women just have to show up and be hot and bring beer. And it's like, so? Does that literally doesn't affect me in any way. They're just so entitled. They can be. Sure. Am I going to put up with it? No. So it literally is outside of my... And I guess this is one of those things. I'll have to do a video on it later, and I'm going to end pretty soon here, but the lesson is never jerk off on camera. Easier said than done. Yeah, it's anything outside of your frame is amusing, intriguing, or funny. And while I'm not going to tell guys, don't be angry at women, don't be misogynist, like that's not my place to tell you what to feel or what to value. I will say this though. Once you do have frame, guys who act like bullshit, girls who act like bullshit, it just generally doesn't phase you until they act a damn fool in your sphere of influence. If I'm dating a girl and she's acting a damn fool, then fuck it, now it affects me. Now this is in my frame. Now you can get the fuck out of my house. But if it's just some chick at the gym showing off her thottery, unless she's stealing the squat rack to take selfies, I don't give a fuck. Go for it, man. Good luck with that. Why don't you love this? It's like, well, I'd love it more if it got out of the way of the mirror. I'm going to look at my guns. You know, shit like that. It's like, whatever. Why take it personally? But I mean, I get it. There's a lot of resentment at Covert Contract. I did all these attractive guy things. My mom said I was special. You know, insert your stereotypical anti-MGTOW thing here. And of course you come out at the end of this like tragic love life, sad, lonely, nobody likes you, your bitch ex-wife did this, the girlfriend cheated on you, all that pain and suffering that every guy is more than happy to tell you about. I get it. And that you need to project it onto somebody else. Like, I get that too. And that's the anger phase. It's a phase. You did it, get it out of your system. And then once you've done all that, you punched yourself out, then you just take a step back. You're like, all right, so what's the shit I can fix? And what's the shit that I just have to accept for what it is? And that's really like the red-pilled hero's journey. And it just sucks because when you're online, the anger phase is great. If you want to sell shit, oh fuck, get a guy who's angry. He'll throw, what is the Fresh and Fit guys? They do like 100,000 in super chats a month. You can get $100,000 just for yelling at chicks. Get them drunk off of White Claws, yell at them, kick them out of your place, and then send them a DM for blowjobs. Absolutely amazing. And that's how lucrative the anger phase is. But then it kind of lets you wonder. It's like, oh, are these guys really red pill? All they want to do is keep me perpetually angry and get a couple bucks off of me. I'm like, I would argue no. No in the sense that they're not showing you they are showing you red pill, but they're feeding you the exact opposite. I'd say there's nothing more red pill than like capitalizing on sad, lonely men financially. In that case, it's a very red pilled thing to do, not a very good red pilled thing to teach. Unfortunately, that's more of a complex message, and I don't think guys are going to get it, so whatever. I like the phrase, I don't hate women, I understand them. It's funny, in my collection here where I told my videos, I just seeing this one of Pat Stedman, the one with Why I Love Women. I don't know why, but I like, he deleted that video a long time ago and somebody sent it to me. It's like, here, I think you want this. And so I've been using it all the time now. I love women because they shower and they're so supportive. I'll throw up a chick talk, some chick acting like a damn bitch, and you know, I love women. They're so great and supportive. They're awesome. And then just contrapose those to each other. It's kind of like my way to show you, like, hey guys, this grift is so out of tune with reality. Let me just show you flat out. Yeah, better Bachelor. I don't harp on him too much because I don't really know his stuff. I just know everybody describes him as sad MGTOW. And he's got an ASMR voice, and Clary likes the guy. And so I'm sure he's a wonderful person. But yeah, I don't know. Is there any recovery possible out of sharing feelings? There absolutely is. That's the point I was making there. The whole video, that's the whole point of it. You can share your feelings. What you don't want to do is rely on your woman to be like a crutch, to have weakness in front of her. Oh, I want to be weak. I need you to support me. Be my friend. It's like, don't do that shit. First off, they're not capable. So if you're leaning on your woman to help you through hard times, then you've fucked up royally. On the other hand, you get some shit done. Do what you have to do in your life to not have those weaknesses. Yeah, hard shit happens. You can share that. Like, dude, this is hard. I don't know what I'm going to do. But you know what? I've handled worse than this. Dude, military tried charging me with espionage. My girl's talking about the Canadian convoy and the whole Emergency Managers Act. I'm like, dude, this is nothing. Remember that time I got hit by a car, then the military tried to throw me in military prison? It's like, we've been through worse. This will be fine. So yeah, you're allowed to have weaknesses. You're allowed to express concerns over the weaknesses, but you just don't be weak about it. I'm not saying don't show weakness. Don't be weak about it. You need to trust that you can handle shit. When shit happens, I got this. I can handle it. It's fine. Of course I'm concerned. You're supposed to be concerned. This is a big deal. I got it, though. And then to actually believe that. And the only way to believe that is to actually go through some shit in your life. So, and I mean, we could talk about individual examples of this until the cows come home, but I'm not going to waste your guys' time like that. I've already killed enough of this just rambling with my Winnipeg accent. Goddamn Winnipeg. Here, I'll end on this. You guys want to know how isolated Winnipeg is? Name one other city in Manitoba. I'll wait. I can't do it. I can't do it. Anyways, have fun. Catch you guys later. If you guys are on Patreon, I'll see you there, 3 o'clock. If not, go sign up. Check it out. I don't think it's till the end of the month that we pay, so just get in there, do your thing, and I'll see you later. Cheers, boys. Oh, wait. Where's the thingy?